Good morning. Let's stand together on this last Sunday of 2017. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Come on, put your hands together like this. We're going to sing this song, which is a testimonial. Come on. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. They only knew Jesus when I met you. Yeah, when you called my name and I ran out of that grave. Put your hands together like this. We're going to lift up this part, which is, it is the declaration of any person who is in need of rescue and has experienced the salvation of our God. Come on, sing with me. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, now your love is the air that I breathe in. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Yeah, you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Into your glorious day.
What a great song. Whenever that song comes on in my car, the first thing I do is reach over and turn that dial up, because that song is one that I just actually love hearing that song. And actually, it's worth getting an experience to see our students sing that song, because they just absolutely love it as well. It's such a great song, such a great message. I just absolutely love it. Here at Gateway Church, we're all about helping people take a step in the right direction. And what I love is how that connects with the song we just sang. And it's talking about, like, I was in darkness and I walked into the light. I ran out of the grave and moved towards the things that God had for me. And that's exactly what we're all about here at Gateway, is helping people take a step in the right direction. My name is Wayne. I'm one of the pastors here at Gateway. and happy to be here with you, and so glad that you've decided to join us today. I know there were a lot of really cold reasons to stay home today, so I really appreciate that you decided to join us. We've got a great experience planned for you today. We're finishing off our year of creating community, and we're doing that by today we're talking about what's called the power of community. And as soon as I heard that, Pastor Rick, I thought back to my childhood. And anybody remember the cartoon He-Man? Anybody? There's a few older ones in the back. Well, in this cartoon, there was this guy, and he was like mild-mannered and didn't have any bravery, and all of a sudden, danger would come upon him, and he would pull out his sword. I don't know why he carried a sword, but it's his world, I guess. And he'd pull out a sword, and he'd point it in the air, and he would say, "By the power of Grayskull." We'll just breeze over that part. But what would happen then is lightning would flash, and it would like hit the sword, and he would be transformed into this like superhero. They called him He-Man, and he'd like then turn his sword and he'd point at his tiger, who was like a timid tiger, and would turn into this like battle cat, they called him. Anyway, I was thinking of power of community, and we should do that today. So what I'm going to get you to do is take your right hand and just raise it up above your head, and we're just all going to, no, we're not going to do that. But I'm impressed at how many of you had your hands above your head. That's pretty good. But we are talking about how community is powerful and how there's power in community. You're not meant to live this life alone, and we honestly do trust that we as a church can gather together and you can be encouraged through the community. If you're newer here, we're so glad that you came. We do have a guest services area. If you haven't been there before, we'd love to answer any questions you might have and let you get to know us a little bit and kind of bridge the gap that way. We do also have a wonderful Tim Hortons gift card back there for you to kind of help you get up a little bit and be a little more awake on your drive home, which would be good because you know, it's cold and snowy. But yeah, we also have wonderful children's programs available right now during the service. So if you're newer here and you maybe didn't know where to go or didn't know that we do offer these great programs, you can just head out into the atrium and one of the ushers will point you in the right direction and help you take a step in the right direction towards checking your children in, because that would just be really good. Now, I'm going to give you an opportunity to greet one another, and what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to tell the person beside you or somewhere around the room of the greatest or the best gift that you received this Christmas. If you didn't receive any great gifts, you can talk about the best gift you received or gave. That maybe if you didn't receive any good ones, the best you gave. And if that doesn't work, then you can talk about when you're going to return the gifts you got for Christmas. So you can talk through that kind of stuff. All right, we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
We lift our hands
We love that you are continuing to chat and mingle, and it's something great about community when you get to see other people. And I just wanted to mention really quickly, our community of Gateway Church has put together a worship album. And I don't know if you've had a chance to hear this yet, but it is a fantastic album that is available for purchase on iTunes and every other place you can possibly think of. Anywhere you buy your music, you can buy this album, and it's a collection of original worship songs that our team has put together. And you were actually just listening to one of the songs on it. You didn't know that, unless you already have the album, in which case you were like, hey, I know this. I had some students come up and they're like, hey, this is your wife. Yep, that was my wife singing, and it's a pretty fantastic album. You should definitely get it. How many of you here have actually already picked up the album? You've already heard it and you absolutely love it, and it's the best album you've ever gotten? Yeah, there's a good number of you. For those of you who are excited about the album, we have a second thing that's really exciting, and that is that we are going to have a live CD party. No, it's not a CD party. It's an album release concert is what it's called. I don't know what a CD party is, but an album release concert. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get together and we're going to do these songs live, which is really exciting. So you'll get to hear them in their fullness. But it's Sunday, January 21st at 6 p.m. here at the London location, and you should definitely make plans to check that out. So I will forgive you if you pull out your phone and put that in your calendar right now. Okay, and then I have just a couple other things. I know that we're all trying to cling on to Christmas vacation as long as we possibly can and pretend that the new year is not coming up, but it is like it's as close as possible at this point. It's tomorrow. But after, New Year's and all of that stuff, we have all kinds of courses and programs and things that we'd love to help you take a step in the right direction with. And so there's little booklets like this. You can see one of the ushers after service and grab one of these. It's literally got everything in it that's coming up in the next few months that you should make sure that you check out and see what would be fitting for you to take your next step. And I'll give you 25 cents if you find a spelling mistake. So that's... No, eh? Okay, well, fine. That's okay. I've often wondered what it would be like if pastors kind of publicly reflected on their work. If you're a fan of any sports, you know that one of the greatest things that has become more prevalent in our society is now we have not only the game or the activity of the sport, but then afterwards you have the coach and their interview, their post-game interview, and they get to reflect on what's gone right and what's gone wrong and how they do it. And so I've often wondered, what would it be like if pastors had to give some sort of press conference after a Sunday morning? I think it would look something like this.
I just feel like we need to clean up some unforced errors. That's it. I mean, I walk out on stage and my mic's not on. I mean, that's just a simple thing we talk about in staff meetings and we practice during the week, and then on Sundays we just can't perform. I mean, I don't know what you want me to do. I feel like I close my sermons the same way every Sunday. As I close, the worship team is going to come out. Does the worship team come out? No. I feel like I finished strong, honestly. I just got to get back and take a look at some of the film, get some things for my sermon corrected for next week. I mean, attendance was down, so I feel like that hurt my confidence a little bit coming out of the gate. But I mean, from a number standpoint, we did okay. It looks like we got 5 applause breaks. We got 3 amens and 1 preach. So from a numbers game, I feel like we're doing well. I just got to do a better job. I mean, I'll take responsibility for my sermon. It wasn't the best thing I've ever done. I had a hilarious story about my kids to start, but then honestly, the scriptural tie-in was not great. I mean, I'm just not comfortable performing in this system. We're doing an 8-week sermon series. Honestly, it should have wrapped up at about 5. We're doing this Stranger Things spinoff called Jesus is a Life Changer Things. Yeah, grammatically, it literally doesn't even make any sense. I mean, I'm a little banged up. I got a sore throat. I'm not 100% either, but no excuses. I knew I needed to come out here and perform on Sunday. I mean, who else is going to preach? The youth pastor? Absolutely not. I mean, last time I had that guy preach, he was quoting Chance the Rapper lyrics. I mean, we just can't have that. I mean, we're doing a good job as a team getting plenty of people to come forward for prayer. We're just not getting salvations. We're not getting the conversions when we need to, bottom line. If anybody has any questions, I'll take those now. Just slip your hand up all over this room. Yes, 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 yes. Honestly, I feel like we're right there. I mean, my pastor performance record, my PPR is like 97. I mean, what do you want from me? I mean, I'm doing everything I can do. We get plenty of welcome cards in the buckets every week. We're just not converting those into members. I mean, bottom line, me and the worship pastor just need to get on the same page. He just got back from a week at a Bethel conference, so there's no excuse for what just happened on that stage. I mean, I'm just sitting there trying to go over my notes during worship, and this guy plays Everbee in G and 10,000 Reasons in A. Like, why? I mean, we just got to be better. Baby dedication, I'll be honest with you, it was a disaster. I mean, I'm out there trying to guess at the pronunciation of these names. It sounds normal. Olivia. Oh, your daughter Olivia is so beautiful. It's Olivia. I mean, who are these parents? Bottom line, our female vocalists just have to get better. Like, if we want to compete with the Elevations and the North Points, we just can't keep putting this product on the stage week after week. I mean, they just don't have the range to do some of these songs. I mean, they're trying to do Carrie Joe, but it's not working. I'm like, revelation song? Are you serious? Like, I'm having a revelation listening to you. You're going to be singing to the youth group on Wednesday. I mean, possession is key, and we preach this to our guys every week. We had to recruit a fourth usher from the lobby right before sermon, and you saw it. I mean, he fumbled the offering plate. You can't expect to have turnovers like that every week and still be successful.
If only they knew, eh?
If you had any idea how true that is. Sunday afternoon staring in the mirror in the bathroom. Oh my goodness. And in the first service, I said, we're going to go to communion in just a minute. That was the cue, and the band did not come up when I asked them to. And I had to keep filling words because the band wasn't there. So you all know now that when we go into that, when you hear that phrase, look around. Try and get it right. It's a simple sentence.
Turn his mic off. Right now.
Yeah. When we ain't having the youth pastor, I'll tell you that. By the power of Grayskull. Seriously. Ushers, come on forward, take everybody's money. We're so grateful for your generosity. Seriously. And they're filming this disaster. To everyone online, I apologize. We're going to let the ushers just collect your tithes and offering to those who made Gateway their home. This is the last opportunity for you to give in 2017. So go ahead, ushers. Thank you so much. And as you do that, so grateful for your generosity over this Christmas season. We were able to identify different ways in which we wanted to give with generosity. Sanctuary London, we gave over $1,500. Wilford Jury Breakfast Program, $640 in grocery cards. Every year we do a Christmas banquet for the London Pregnancy Support Center. We had over 135 people for Christmas dinner. And on behalf of Neil and Jen, they just want to say thank you so much for as they give leadership to this. Over 108 stockings were given to children, and they went over and above, and just so fantastic with your giving this year. And then we did something brand new. We called it the Big Give. And if you were here throughout November, you knew all about this. And it kind of dovetailed with our series about being rich and what it means to be rich in generosity. And you caught the dream. You exceeded any of our hopes, and I can let you know now that we were able to give away over $30,000 to various entities in the city that are engaged. Yeah, give yourselves a hand. We gave these to groups that serve the marginalized in our city, the ones that fly under the radar, the ones that you may not know about, that like a Nova, John Gordon Home, Quentin Warner Addiction Agency. Komoka was in on this as well. They were able to give over $6,000 to the Women's Rural Health Center, the Middlesex Community Living, the Elsa Craig Food Bank. It was just a fantastic, fantastic success as we created a culture of generosity, and we were able to bless people in the city that would, and the target was people that would go, the church is doing this? Wow, we would never have expected this from the church. And so it was just a great, great opportunity. We raised so much money, we had to actually come up with some more to give away. So we have one more video to show you of something that happened this past week.
I am here today with Sylvia, who is at Unity Project, and it is a real privilege to be able to meet her and find out a little bit more about what they're all about. So Sylvia, why don't you tell us all a little bit about what Unity Project is?
Sure. Unity Project for Relief of Homelessness. We're an emergency shelter and transitional housing charity. We serve about 35 people sleeping in this building every night, and another 9 or 10 folks in transitional housing in the other buildings. So we have 2 buildings on this property here in Old East Village. Unity Project is a participatory shelter, so the men, women, and youth who stay here participate in all the cooking and the cleaning and the day-to-day maintenance. And this is a very busy time of year.
This is a busy time. I know in the conversations I've had with you, it's been pretty crazy lately, right?
That's right. Yeah, so there's been a lot of donations are coming in all the time from the community. At Christmas, as I was telling you, we had a really large donation of winter coats. We're still a little short on men's coats.
You mean men's coats, okay.
In particular, women wear a lot of coats and have a lot of coats and donate a lot of coats. Men tend to wear their coat.
Yeah.
And they got to give that up and donate.
So they need more men's coats.
Yes, please.
Awesome.
That'd be great.
Well, one of the things that we have been endeavoring to do lately in our congregation is to look at some groups such as yourself, charities and agencies who are doing some great work around our city, and to be able to just learn more about them, increase our awareness of them, and to also just come alongside them in any way that we can, particularly ones that we may not have partnered with in the past or we don't know a lot about. And so it's such an honor and a privilege to find out a little bit more about Unity Project and to meet you and some of your staff and see the great stuff that you're doing here. And so we thank you, really, on behalf of our church for just, being here on a regular basis and meeting the needs of so many people and reaching people in such a great and unique way.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit more about that uniqueness, and the next few years hold some great promise for us. We are really fortunate to have had support from the London Community Foundation, United Way, and the local Poverty Reduction Fund for a project where we're endeavoring to really transform our services over the next 3 years to do more than provide beds and meals, to do more than simply keep people alive another day, and instead to really work to find them housing and to connect them with community supports to keep them, to welcome them and have them have belonging in the community. And a lot of shelters have traditionally been primarily about providing beds and meals.
Yes.
And so as part of a housing first philosophy of principles and practices, we're working to redesign our services to actually work to get people housing.
Do so much more.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so the frontline staff here, we have 2 staff per shift. There are 3 shifts a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they're doing more than just simply intake and the provision of beds and meals. The staff that are here are actually working on casework with people
that's great.
with their housing support plan.
Right on. Well, at our church Gateway, we have been really trying to focus on whatever it is that we can do to come alongside folks like you, and we've been partnering together to give together towards what we're wanting to do for this season. And so basically we have been giving towards your cause, and so our church has pulled together to try and give towards what you guys are doing here. And so we do have a gift for you today.
Lovely.
And we're so thrilled and honored and privileged to be able to come alongside you and just to present a gift to you, and in the amount of $5,000. So we're just really, really excited about
Amazing.
that. Yeah, and our folks who are watching this video right now are going to go crazy, and they're going to go, we got to do this, you know what I mean? And so we're privileged to just meet you and to find out what you're doing and to just bless you in a small way. You
Well,
know?
lovely.
So hey,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Hey, our privilege.
Amazing.
Thanks, eh?
Thank
So
you.
we hope you have a great Christmas
Yeah.
and an awesome, fantastic New Year.
Okay, well, it just got better. Thanks.
Awesome. No problem.
Yeah.
That was a privilege. If you were watching the video and noticing that I was a little bit distracted at one point and fumbling over my words, which may not be that uncommon, but the reality is what happened was, as she mentioned, they were really in need of men's coats, right? Well, when my wife and I first went in there to do the interview with Sylvia, I took my coat off and I set it down on a bench, and it had my wallet and my keys in it, of course. And while we're doing the interview, some people were coming in and they were looking around and stuff, and this one guy came in and he sat down on the bench right beside my coat, and then he grabs my coat and he starts looking at it, and Patty's going, because she's shooting the video for us, eh? And she's going, and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And so it was just kind of funny because I have no idea what I said for those 30 seconds, but hopefully some of it was mildly coherent. But it was such a great experience to be able to bless them in that way, and thank you again for helping us to do that. Why don't you stand with us? We're going to sing a couple more songs, and let's celebrate the hope that we have in Jesus. Come on. Some good news for you today. Hope has come. To all who are departed and heavy laden, hope has come. To all who feel the weight of a broken spirit, hope has come. Lift up your eyes, lift up your head, the power of the Spirit. Swallowed up in victory through the sun. The way was lost to sin and it's grateful for me, 'cause he has won. To those who see the love of a perfect Father, hope has come. To those who see the light of the risen Savior, hope has come. Lift up your eyes, lift up your head, the power of our sin is dead. He has won. Death is swallowed up in victory through the sun. The grave is lost to sting and it's grip over me, 'cause he has won. He has won. Jesus has come. Jesus has come. Sing it louder. Sing it louder. Jesus has won. Jesus has won. Sing it louder. Sing it louder. Jesus has come. Jesus has come. so thankful that this past year that we can look back on all the things that we've experienced in our journey of faith and come to the obvious conclusion that God has been faithful to us. He has blessed, He has provided, He has led us. He has shown us so many amazing things about who He is and what He desires to do. And that gives us faith and hope for the future, that in this coming year, that same God who did great things and showed us His faithfulness and His grace is the same God who is going to do it again in 2018. So I want to encourage you to lift up your hearts, lift up your voices, lift up your faith, and let's declare the truth. Whether things worked out for us the way that we wanted or whether we're still waiting to see that miracle, let's declare what we believe today, because He'll do it again. Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but You have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for You have never failed me yet. The promise still stands, great is Your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in Your hands, this is my confidence. You never failed me yet, never failed me yet. I know the night won't last, Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing Your praise again. Jesus, You're still enough. Keep me within Your love. My heart will sing Your praise again. Come on, declare it today. Your promise still stands, great is Your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in Your hands, this is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands, great is Your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in Your hands, this is my confidence. You never failed me yet, never failed me yet. Oh, Jesus, You never failed me, Lord, and I know that You'll do it again. I believe today. Come on, declare it today. I've seen You move the mountains. promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. Oh, you've never failed me yet. Never failed me, Lord. You've never failed me yet. And I never will forget. You've never failed me yet. And I never will forget. Lord, today we can declare you've never failed us. Lord, that doesn't mean everything has gone the way that we wanted it to. But Lord, you've never failed us. And you are the God who keeps his promises. You are a God who keeps his word. You are faithful to do what you said you would do, Lord. And so we look forward to what you have for us because we know that you will do it again. Help us to not forget, Lord, your faithfulness today. Amen. Amen. Thanks for singing with us. You may be seated.
What a fitting song, last song for us to sing as we come to the end of another year. Good morning and welcome to this, the last service of 2017. Can you hardly believe that another year has passed? Why do they speed up? The older you get, they seem to be going faster. I don't know what it is, but it used to be, it's a whole year long. Now a year feels like it's 6 weeks, and it just kind of disappears. I've enjoyed this weekend, these last few days, and I'm sure there'll be plenty this afternoon and this evening, people's comments on Instagram and various media feeds where they will take various pictures of the year, comprise them together in some kind of a mosaic pattern, and then write their reflections, almost like mini diaries on the year. And I've been reading a few of those, and some of the comments they've made, and as I was actually thinking of that as Pastor Tim led us in that song, Great is His Faithfulness, the promises of God. And I'm really pleased to see some of the comments that go with these Instagram photos and kind of the commentaries, because they are reflective of this next generation that is learning to acknowledge the faithfulness of God. We used to, in earlier years, many years ago, we would have these New Year's Eve services. We would stay up till midnight singing boring songs and praying. And I remember, all my friends were going out to have fun, and I had to go to church. But there was something about the testimony times of talking about the faithfulness of God as they would, quote, pray in the new year. And I know that many of you are going to go out, you're going to have some fun tonight, and you'll celebrate the new year. But I'm just so reflectively positive, I guess, is the way, what I'm trying to say, of just how this next generation is responding to the faithfulness of God, that He is good, that His promises are sure and true, that though there are difficulties, though there have been some tough markers for many of you, that God continues to prove Himself. Well, this whole year at Gateway, we've been focusing on community, what it means to be one, what it means to belong to community, to experience communion, those things that we hold in common, to belong, to become, to be there, to be present in the hearts and the lives of one another, to be there to celebrate the great moments in our lives this past year, to be there to laugh in the funny moments, to be there to cry in the sad moments, to support and to encourage in those difficult times. As well, it's been a year for us to discover not only what it means to be community, but for us to take this, which is our community, and to go and be community in the community of London, to be a part of our neighbors, a part of our small little parts and components of our community, and to be a part of this wonderful city of London and the amazing people made by God and for God. Throughout the years we were here, we had various sermon series. We looked at the will of God. We talked about how we are better together. Our summer series was, we looked at the book of Pilgrim's Progress. We read the book together as a church family and talked about our journey to the celestial city. Canada Day, we celebrated Canada's 150th birthday, and so we had the Community of Nations and a cultural fair for all of our neighbors and friends, and what a great success that was. We then moved into the fall as we reaffirmed our mission, vision, and values, looking at This Is Us, our series. And then, of course, our Pursuit Weekend. What a great weekend was that. I trust that you enjoyed that as we discovered that we are better together united. We are better together united. And then, as I've already mentioned, we approached the Christmas season, looked at the richness of God's blessing in our lives, and that we are rich in generosity, and how we can bring and create a spirit of generosity to our community in London. And so generous you were. And I believe that it was a watershed series, a moment where it set us on a fresh, newer path of creating a culture that is infused with a spirit of generosity into our DNA, and focusing on being a part of something that is bigger than just who we are. Our Komoka campus as well reached out into Middlesex, into the Delco Bridges area. It was a year for them to go to double services, and so now our campus is over 200 strong in attendance every week, and they continue to grow. And we know that there will be greater steps for the Komoka campus as we reach further out into the community, into other communities in newer areas, and we are believing God for greater next steps. It was a year where we also stepped it out in faith for our next campus at the main campus, and that is what we believe is one of the most opportune kingdom impact places in the city, Western University. And we are so excited that not next week, but the week after, we will begin services every Sunday, where thousands of students, some of the most brilliant in the world, gather less than 5 kilometers from our location. And I believe that we've been given a divine opportunity, a mission field, if you would, to share the gospel with so many of them who come from all over the world. Our Red Frogs, our safety network, has gained full acceptance at Western University. And now in that leadership culture, they have given us a profile on the campus that continues to make headway into that sector. We provided Christmas dinner for 50 international students. What a great time that was this weekend. And many of you opened your homes to students who were here for the Christmas season who'd never been into a Canadian home before. And so this, I believe, is the key to our mission, to impacting our world as we continue to reach further and believe God for great things in 2018. But of course, I'm getting ahead of myself as usual. This is about a past reflection. Most of the time, I don't do the messages on today. I do the message next Sunday. And so I'm always looking ahead, as most of my life is lived with little by way of a rearview mirror. But as I look back on this year, I believe the theme was timely for us. For we're living in a day where we are more connected and yet never more out of touch. We're in a world that has never had more friends and never been more lonely. Time magazine ran a story entitled "Why Loneliness Will Be the Next Big Public Health Issue." And in 2017, that has become a reality, for we are living in an epidemic of loneliness. You can be surrounded by people and be the most lonely person in the world. You can be married for many years and be lonely. Depression and mental health and suicide is growing at such an alarming rate that the medical and social services cannot keep up. It is such a rampant problem on Western University that they are now building a mental health unit right in the center of our university, because so many of our students are struggling with these issues. We share anything our mind with everyone on social media, but none of the heart. True community is about connecting and learning and knowing and feeling. And yes, we use Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and Pinterest and all these things. But we've got to be careful, because we've got contacts and communities and friends and followers. We like and unlike. We friend and unfriend. Our digital feeds, our follower feeds are just weak imitations of actual in-the-flesh friends. It promises to cure our loneliness, but it rarely delivers. But here's the point of all of this. The loneliness of ours is not a flaw. Many times when we look in the mirror, when we experience loneliness, we think there's something wrong with us. I want you to know today that if you are lonely today, if you feel alone, if you feel sometimes that you're the only person on this earth that is experiencing or having these feelings of blue or down or loneliness, loneliness is not a flaw. We aren't lonely because something is wrong with us. We are lonely because something is very right with us. We are made in the image and the person of God, and God we believe is a triune God, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And our loneliness is a reflection of our need to be a part of that triune communal God that He has placed within each and every one of us, to know God, to be known by God, and to experience Him in a fresh and a real way. That's why Jesus comes into our heart and into our lives. That's why we speak about having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's why we as Pentecostals talk about the indwelling of the Spirit, that the Spirit of God wants to come inside and be among us, because God is a relational God, and He made you and He made me so that we could experience communion with Him. A God by whose very nature sends Himself as a Christ child to come and belong and to be a part of us, as we've just talked about Christmas this year. In the depths of our heart, we desire and need true community. Our loneliness is not a flaw. Our loneliness shows us of just how right we are. And I believe this year we learned. We learned to do that better this year. We learned to be community better this year, not only as a church, but as individuals within our community. We learned to call our neighborhood community, and we got to know our neighbors better. We opened our doors, hopefully just a little bit wider, and we made new friends. And as our church continues to grow, hardly a week goes by and we don't have so many new people filling out our guest cards, telling us that they have made Christ as Savior, that they have made Gateway their home, that they are finding a place and they're wanting to make friends. Just this past Christmas season, we advertised on Facebook. We did actually Facebook ads. It's the first time we ever did it. And we had 23,000 people who have never, ever been a part of Gateway. 23,000 people actually clicked on our ad. 250 people actually went to our web link to look at what we were going to be doing for our Christmas services. We had one adult who was on the verge of hopelessness and ending their life, read our ad, came to Gateway, and now is taking her next step of faith as her life is completely turning around. This year we had over 50 adults take Alpha, 80 young people take Alpha, and we continue to see that ongoing steps of faith and journey in so many hearts and lives. I wish I had the time today to read you the cards that I read every single week of people who are understanding and discovering not only a God who loves them, but a community of faith where they can come and be who they are. Real community needs to be real. It must be experienced. And yes, it's messy. And it's awkward, and it costs, and there is risks. And it comes with tensions that must be overcome if we are to emerge into the truest measure of who God wants us to be. Because the church of yesterday doesn't look like it does today. And tomorrow, whatever the church is going to look like, hang on to your seats. I only know that whatever it is today, it won't be like that 5 years from now. We used to talk about 10-year visions and 15-year visions. I don't know that we can do that anymore because the world changes every 5 years. If you can get it all figured out for 18 to 24 months, I think you're doing pretty good these days. And so as the church continues to become, it's not all bad when we see all of the changes that are happening within the church, for that was the same challenge that's been going on for over 2,000 years. In the New Testament, when Paul took the gospel to the Greeks and the Italians and the Mediterraneans, it messed up the church in Jerusalem. The church in Jerusalem had their idea of Christianity all in a nice, decent order. They had it all put together. Paul goes and he preaches to the Greeks and the Italians, and they get saved, and all of a sudden they come into the church and they're just doing it different because they're different. And they were eating different, and they were dressing differently, and they thought differently, and they acted and behaved differently. Jesus came for all people, and that's one of the things we want to celebrate at Gateway as we have experienced community this year, that He came for all people, the weird ones, the funny ones, the quirky ones, the ones who don't fit in. And well, you have someone in mind when I say that to the person to the left or to the right of you. Be careful, because someone's probably thinking that about you. But I've learned that you can't be the best you by yourself. If you want to be the best you, got to be the best you in community. That's the only way that we become the best you. And December 31st, it ends today, and tomorrow is a new day and a new year, and all the media is talking about the steps that you can take, and people will be talking about the best diet and the best calendar, the best financial plan, and here are the things that I'm going to do. And what paths will I take? What steps will I take to create the best version of me? And they will talk about all of the formulas and the things that you have to do. And it's so interesting because Jesus wanted you to become the best you, but he had a whole different take on it. He said in John chapter 10, "Whoever finds their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it." That if you and I want to become our best me, we don't find it by creating a better me. We find it by losing me and becoming more like him. We were created in the image of God, created to be not just individuals, but to be individuals in community, or inter-individuals. It's a new word, I just made it up, Tim. Right after Jesus made that declaration in John 10, he said that anyone who welcomes you welcomes me. Anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. And the word there is welcomed. And this year we practice the first value of Gateway to a whole new degree, that we are loved by God and welcomed to receive any and all, that they might repent and be reconciled into relationship with him. That the best way to become the best you is to do it in community. And it means that we love. And we've had to learn, and we will continue to learn how to love better. Not in the sentimental, warm, fuzzy, flower and scented candles way, but in a gutsy way, in a costly way, in a sacrificial way, because he first loved us. And Jesus consistently places at the core of his mission, being together in community. And every time we take communion, the symbols of his death, the bread and the wine, they remind us that we partake together as a family. And even in Paul's admonitions about the prohibition of taking communion in an unworthy manner, it's actually about people who are in wrong relationship or not in right relationship. Meaning that God values relationships with one another over any act of worship, over any song you sing, or every prayer that you pray. You can love God till the cows come home, you might say, and God says, "Oh yeah? Show me how you love your enemies. That proves to me how much you love me. Show me how you love your community when you don't get along with them, when you don't agree with them, when you disappoint one another, when you let one another down. That shows me how much you love me." Have you ever felt rejected by someone? Even in this year, as you reflect on your relationships? Have you ever had someone in your life that you wanted the relationship to go just a little bit deeper, but they wouldn't go with you? You're falling for someone, but they're not falling for you. You're pulling for the relationship to go into a different place, a better place, and they just won't cooperate. And even worse, they're kind about it. They're polite about it, but they're distant, removed. Maybe that's how you feel about God. Is it possible that that's how God feels about you? 2018, that you could discover God in a fresh new way. That God is wanting to go deeper. That God is wanting to take you places that you may not want him to go to. This is our theme for 2018. You'll hear more about it next weekend, but that we could know God in a way that we've never known him. That we could experience God in a way that we've not yet experienced. And that we would discover what it means to know and to be known by God in a way that we have never possibly considered before. That there is a deeper place, a more richer place of understanding and relationship. I only know this. Before we know who we are, we have to understand whose we are and how we are to this world. John said, "Dear friends, since God loved us that much, we surely ought to love each other. For no one has ever seen God, but if we love each other, God lives in us, and his love has been brought to full expression through us." Oh, let me read that again. We ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love each other, God lives in us, and his love is being brought to full expression through us. Though we don't see him, when we love each other, The full expression of God is made manifest to our world. Pernell Goodyear was a speaker we had in the first week of January last year, and he used this Greek word that he said in the New Testament is used over and over to describe the church, and it's the word oikos in the Greek, which loosely translated, oikos is household. It's not yogurt. I was looking at some of his thoughts this weekend, and I dug a little deeper, and I found that the word oikos, which loosely means household, is actually more broader and more encompassing than just the house that you hold or your immediate family. That they use the word oikos to refer to co-workers and friends. Oikos can refer to your local barista, your grocery store clerk, the parents on your kid's sport team, your hairdresser, your therapist, your roommate, your business associate, your gardener, the dog groomer, the carpool buddies, the dentist. They can all be part of your oikos. The oikos assumes an extended family that share life in common together. People who share their lives in such significant ways day by day, that you and I could see the church, that you and I could see our community as an oikos, as a household. Not just something that we do on Sundays, but rather something that's more broader than that as we experience that which we share in common. And what we share in common is a love for God, His Son Jesus Christ, and the empowerment of the Spirit. That we would be seen as a peoplehood, devoted to honoring the family name, bound to each other by love and by the Spirit, who we would not necessarily always agree together, but even when we disagree, we would die for one another. How fortunate we are to have one another. As I reflect back on 2017, I am so grateful to God for you. I didn't have any major tragedies, but I saw many of you who did have tragedies and deep grief this year. And when I look at those who experience deep grief, who are not part of this, I can't imagine what you would do if you didn't have an oikos. I am grateful that I am part of this oikos, this household, this community that I experience every week, that if I went through a personal tragedy, that I would have family. So I am grateful for you as I come to the end of 2017. And in a moment, we're going to share communion together.
Happy New Year.
Took them a whole year to get it. The bread and the juice are symbols of the body and the blood of Jesus that brings us together in a way like no other. So we come not only to have communion, but we come to share a meal of community together. We have an open communion that just says, you know what, you can belong before you believe. And so wherever you are in your spiritual journey, Jesus would have you join us and take another step, whatever that step is for you. I'm grateful to again come to this table of God's grace where there is no one keeping people out or keeping people away. Jesus still calls tax collectors and prostitutes and housewives, physicians and teachers and retirees and children. He calls the rich and the poor, the sick and the healthy. He calls everyone to the heart of God to experience His family, to experience oikos. So we invite you to come to this table not because you've made it, not because you've arrived, not because you've got to a certain level or a certain place, but to come because we're all on a journey to the celestial city. Pilgrims on a way, on a journey. We're family. We're oikos. So I want to encourage you today to find a group amongst you. It doesn't have to be who you're right around, but to find a group, to get into groups of 3 and 5 and 10 and 12 and 6 and 4 and whatever. Just get into some groups. And I want you to find some people that you can encourage, that you can pray for one another, that you can maybe offer forgiveness or hope or encouragement. That maybe there's someone here in the room that you could say, you know what, thank you, in 2017, you helped me become a better version of me than I could be without you. So thank you for your life. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you that whatever it is that you did, you helped me become a better me in Christ. So I'm going to invite you just to stand. Come on now, stand right up. Start to find some groups. Start to find an oikos among you, of people that you want to share communion. And when you do, then you grab one or two people from that group, send them back or forward to get a few plates and some juice, a couple of bottles, whatever it is. Discover your oikos fresh again. Get into whatever groups you can. Let's take the next 10 or 15 minutes and just love on one another. Love to see you enjoying communion, the fellowship of the saints, one last time. Let me share with you a story, and that I'll let you go. The story goes that a man had fallen into a river. He wasn't much of a swimmer, and so he was in real danger of drowning. A crowd of concerned people wanted to rescue him, and they're standing at the edge of the water, and they're urgently shouting at him, "Give me your hand, give me your hand." The man's battling the waves, and it seems like he's ignorant to their pleas, and he keeps going underwater, and he's going to drown. A saintly man walks up to him and says, his approach is different. He goes down into the water, and he wades up to his knees, and he glances at the drowning man, and he reaches over and he says, "Take my hand. Take my hand." To everybody's surprise, the drowning man reached out and grabbed the man's hand. The two came out of the water, and the drowning man sat on the edge of the water, exhausted. The crowd looks at the other man and says, "Why did he listen to you and he not listen to us?" The man said this, "You all asked him for something. You asked him for his hand. I offered him something. I offered him my hand." And then he said, "A drowning man is in no position to give you anything." Tonight we'll say goodbye to 2017, but hopefully not to what we've learned about becoming a community. 2018, we will encounter all kinds of drowning people. People who are lost in their sin and their brokenness, their heartache and their heartbreak. I pray that for 2018, our lives are not marked by asking for something. But in 2018, our lives will be marked by offering our hands. My takeaway for 2017 is that we don't need as a church to start anything. We need to go. We need to go and to be faithful, to be loving, to be redemptive, to be the hands and the heart and the presence of Jesus Christ to our oikos, to our city. That's my heart. That's my prayer. God bless you, and Happy New Year.
Just as you go today, we trust that this has been a meaningful experience and that you've had some time to chat a little bit about, 2018 and a little about what we've been talking about in community. I just want to take a moment to invite you to, if you could help us by stacking the chairs and bringing them towards the front of the stage, that would be really, really helpful. And then these risers have to be moved as well. So before you go, if you could give us a hand, it'd be really nice. Awesome. Thanks. God bless and have a great day. Happy New Year.